Hello everyone! Welcome to your TLE 7 online class. In this video, we will be talking about the module number 3 of our cookery topic for third quarter, and this is mensuration and calculation. So this is your TLE 7 class and it's me, Ma'am Carla. So in the discussion of this module, please take note of this term. Mensuration. So, are you familiar or have you heard this term before? So, when we say mensuration, it is the act of measuring, pagsusukat. The question now is, what do we measure when we are cooking? Can you imagine, can you determine, can you identify anything that is being measured when we are cooking? Have you observed your mother when she is cooking? Is she measuring something? So what are these things that we are measuring when we are cooking? Let's find out. Typically, there are 3 things that are being measured when we cook, and these are the following. First is the cooking time. Ayan. So, how long should that ingredient be boiled? Gaano katagal na pinapakuluan ang itlog, ang baboy, ang baka whenever we cook them. So that's cooking time. We also measure the amount of ingredients, which is very important, diba? It is one of the things that we measure when we are cooking. The ingredients, how many eggs, how many kilos of pork, how many carrots, how many cups of onion. So that is what we mean by amount of ingredients. Another important thing that we measure in cooking is the temperature. Ayan. So there are some instances, especially in a recipe, that it states the amount of temperature na kinakailangan. Gaano kainit ang tubig? So may temperature po na naka-indicate doon. So these are the 3 things that we normally measure when we are cooking. The time, ingredients, and temperature. Please take note of the following. So, accurate measurement. So, if we accurate means exact, walang labis, walang kulang. So, if we accurately measure the time, the ingredients, and then the temperature, it will help us to achieve successful cooking. Ibig sabihin, we will be able to have that delicious, perfectly cooked food. Ayan. So, that's why it's very important that you follow accurate measurement. Another thing to take note of, recipe. Are you familiar with this word, recipe? So what do we mean by this? So recipe is the set of instructions in preparing a dish, including the list of ingredients. So if you have cookbooks at home, yung libro na puro, ang laman niya ay puro mga paraan ng pagluluto ng mga putahe, ayan. So it is a cookbook is consisted of a compilation of different recipe. Ayan. So nai-imagine nyo na ba kung ano yung recipe? So let me help you imagine that one. So, this is an example of a recipe. Ayan. So, as you can see, it has different information in there. So, it has different parts, and number 1 is the menu item name. Yung pangalan ng pagkain. So, that's menu item name. Another important part of our recipe is the total yield, meaning how many servings ang mapoproduce kapag sinunod po itong recipe na ito. Ilang platito, ilang balot, so that is what we mean by total yield. Ilang tao ang makakakain kapag sinunod ang recipe na yan. Of course, a recipe will not be completed if we do not have the ingredients list and quantity. So, yung mga kinakailangang sangkap at kung gaano siya karami. And of course, to complete the recipe, you have the preparation procedures, the step-by-step guide, especially for beginners like us. So this is the part wherein the step-by-step procedures on how to make that recipe or how to cook that recipe is stated. So all in all, you call this as the recipe. Okay? Another thing to take note of, ingredients. Ayan, isa siya sa mga pinaka-importanting sinusukat pag tayo ay nagluluto. Of course, you can already name what examples of ingredients. The examples of ingredients. Ayan. But let me define it for you. When we say ingredients, these are substances that forms a mixture. So, kung yung adobo kanina, nabasa ninyo, kailangan niya ng pork, ng soy sauce, ng bay leaf, ng pepper. So, those things are what we call substances that are being mixed all together to form a mixture, which is yung ulam natin. Okay? So, let's focus on this part of a recipe. Ayan, so yung ingredients list and the quantity. Kasi nga po, this is very important to be measured kapag tayo ay nagluluto. Okay, so let's identify this one by one because it's very important that we understand these things when we are talking about accurate measurement in cooking. So, do you understand any of the following? So, let's discuss it one by one. So, from the pork belly until the water, these are the ingredients. Okay? These are the ingredients. However, we would like to achieve the accurate, eksaktong sukat. Okay? The accurate measurement. So, it's not enough that you know these things, the ingredients. It's also important that you know these things. Yan. The numbers and then these letters. Do you know the meaning of this? Ayan. So, the number 2 until the last 2 here is what you call the quantity. Yung bilang niya, ilang piraso. Okay, ilan. Yun yung sasagutin niya. However, if you will observe, you have here 2 kg, 2 TBSP, 2 C. They are the same na 2. However, they are different kung sukat ang pag-uusapan natin because they have different letters beside them. The kg, TBSP, and C, they are different from one another. And these letters are what we call the unit of measurement. And this is very important that you know the difference or the meaning of these letters because this will make the measurements, the quantity different from one another. Ito yung magsasabi, gaano karami yung 2 na sinasabi? Gaano karami yung pork? Gaano karami yung water? Because ayan, iba-iba yung letters na nakikita natin. So, this is one of the focus of our video lesson po. Now, nakita nyo po kanina, recipe. So, it's very important that you follow a standard recipe because as you have seen, it states the accurate measurement of ingredients. Sometimes it also indicates the accurate measurement of time and then the temperature. So, it's very important that you follow a standard recipe, especially if you have a food business. Yan. Dapat may mga recipe na po kayong nakahanda, hindi tansya-tansya lang. It's important that you follow this because of the following things. Number 1, consistent quality and quantity. Ayan. Consistent meaning hindi pa bago-bago. So, going back to that pork adobo recipe, kung yun yung palaging susundin mo, so, every time na magluluto ka ng pork adobo, same yung lasa, same yung servings. Kung 8 platito yun, so 8 platito lang palagi yung naihahanda mo. Consistent, hindi siya pa bago-bago. At pag hindi pa bago-bago, nagkakaroon ka ngayon ng standard portion and cost. Lalo na nga po kapag kayo nagbebenta ng pagkain. So, kung ang isang platito mo ay may 3 hiwa ng pork, so laging 3 hiwa ng pork. Hindi magkakaroon ng confusion sa customers mo na, ay ba't parang ngayon marami? Bakit kanina parang konti? So, standard portion, that is what we mean by that. And yung cost mo, kung laging 40 pesos per platito ang benta mo sa iyong adobo, so laging ganun lang siya. Kasi nga, standard naman yung sinusunod nating recipe. Standard recipe is also important because it will help you assure nutritional content. Meaning, may mga tao kasi po na strict ang diet na fina-follow nila. Ayan. So, gusto nila ito lang lagi yung amount of oil, amount of calorie, amount of carbohydrates, protein. Ayan. So, kung may standard recipe na sinusunod, lagi nating ma-achieve yung gusto lang natin na amount ng nutrients. So, that's how helpful recipe is when it comes to this thing, nutritional content. Another importance of having a standard recipe is that it helps you to avoid fewer errors. Kasi nga po, eksakto na yung sukat, may step-by-step ka ng sinusunod na procedures. So, it will help you to lessen the chances of committing mistakes. Nasobrahan ng asin, nasobrahan ng init, ng mantika, or ng tubig, overcook, ayan. Kasi sometimes, those errors, ang ginagawa natin, inuulit natin yung pagluluto. So, nagkakaroon ng waste, ayan, nagkakaroon ng mga pagkasayang, ayan. So, kapag meron tayong standard recipe, it will help you to reduce waste. Again, standard recipe is important because of this 5 things. And dyan, sa recipe nga po is naka-indicate yung mga measurement and steps na kinakailangan natin to achieve successful cooking. Once again, when we say mensuration, it's the act of measuring. Let's move forward. In measuring your ingredients, dahil sabi nga po natin, ingredients is one of the most important thing na sinusukat kapag nagluluto. Sometimes kasi yung time and then yung temperature, kaya nyong tansyahin yan. But in ingredients, it's very important that you measure it accurately. Ayan, kasi hindi to, pag napaghalo-halo mo na yung pagkain, yung ingredients mo, hindi mo na mababawi yun. Okay? So, dapat importante that you measure your ingredients accurately. So, what are the things that you have to remember when you measure your ingredients? Number 1, you have to identify the type of ingredient. Anong klaseng ingredient ang kailangan mong sukatin? Number 2, identify the unit of measurement. Ito yung nakita nyo kanina na kg, c, ayan. Kasi nga po, maaaring nakita nyo parehong 2, pero magkaiba yung unit of measurement. So, dapat ma-identify nyo yun. And once you have identified the type of ingredient and unit of measurement indicated in the recipe, now you have to get the proper or appropriate measuring tool in that ingredient. So, these are the 3 things that you have to remember when you measure your ingredients. So, let's talk about the first reminder. Identify the type of ingredient. Do you have any idea what are the... Of course, you know what those ingredients are. You may tell me cooking oil, vinegar, salt, pepper, pork, or meat. Yes, those are all examples of ingredients. But do you know that they are classified into 3? May 3 classifications po tayo ng ingredients. And these are the following. So the 3 kinds or classifications of ingredients are the following. We have dry ingredients, liquid ingredients, and then the solid ingredients. So let me give you an example of this. When we say dry ingredients, this usually comes in powdered form. Mga powders. Ayan. So can you identify on your kitchen the different examples of dry ingredients? So if you have flour and sugar on your mind, you are correct. So those are examples of dry ingredients. Usually they come in powder form. The salt, those are examples of dry ingredients. Even your rice, yung hilaw na bigas, that is an example of a dry ingredient. So that's the first one. Another type of ingredient is the liquid ingredient. So yung mga liquid form, yung katulad ng tubig, ayan, that when you pour them into something, kinokopya lang nila o sinusunod lang nila yung shape ng pinaglalagyan ninyo. Liquid ingredients. So, if you have cooking oil and soy sauce on your mind, you're correct. So, those are examples of liquid ingredients. So, if you also have a vinegar, water, juice, yung juice na tinunaw na, yes, those are liquid ingredients. And then the last one that we have here is solid ingredients. So, can you name or can you identify examples of solid ingredients? So, if you think onion, garlic, meat, vegetables, fruits are solid ingredients, then you are correct. So, solid ingredients are in solid form. Buo sila. Ayan. So, butter, margarine, yung buong ganun po, that is also an example of a solid ingredient. So, these are the classifications or types of ingredients. The dry, the liquid, and then the solid. Are these things clear to you? So, if you have questions about this, you may ask that to me through PM or through our Google Meet. But for the meantime, these are the types of ingredients. We have the dry, the liquid, and then the solid. So, we're done with the first one. Sabi po, in measuring ingredients, you have to identify the type of ingredient. You have the dry, the solid, and then the liquid. Next, after you have identified the type of ingredient, you have to identify the unit of measurement na sinabi po doon sa recipe. Ayan. Now, when it comes to unit of measurement, we have to memorize this. Ayan. So, the letters that you see in red colors like the T, the capital letter T, you have to be very careful with that because when we talk about unit of measurement, abbreviations, yung mga pinaikli. Ayan. So, magkaiba po iyang ibig sabihin ng small letter t and capital letter T. So, ito po, yung mga units na yan, this is what you call the units of measurement. Ayan, units of measurement po ang tawag dyan. It indicates how much yung kailangan ninyo. Kasi nga, maaring 2 ang nakita ninyo, magkasunod na 2, but you have to take note anong unit of measurement yun. So, this is the abbreviation of these units of measurement. Teaspoon, tablespoon, up to piece, ayan. So, yan po ang tinatawag natin units of measurement. Yung mga letters in red, that is what you call the abbreviations of units of measurement. In some recipes, they put the whole name. Ayan, yung buong ganyan. So, but in other recipes then, they just put the acronym. So, you have to be familiar with both. Okay? So, these are the units of measurement. So, you have to be very careful. Hindi lang basta 2, hindi lang basta 4. You have to look on the letter or unit of measurement beside that number. Kasi nga po, accurate measurement ang gusto natin. So, your task on this part is to memorize how quarts is abbreviated, how cup is abbreviated, and when we see the word or the letters PT on a recipe, what does it mean? So, you have to memorize this. You can do that. Now, we're done identifying the type of ingredient, the unit of measurement. Ayan. So, the next thing is to identify the measuring tool. Of course, you cannot measure anything if you do not have the tool. Sabi ko nga sa inyo sa Module 1, there's a separate module on discussing the different measuring tools, and this is the module number 3. So, let's talk about the different measuring tools. In measuring your ingredients, there are 4 commonly used measuring tools. Ayan. So, these are the following. We have the measuring cup for dry ingredients, measuring cup for liquid ingredients, the measuring spoons, and then the weighing scale. Kaya nga po kanina, we identified first the type of ingredients. We have the solid, we have the liquid, we have the dry, because there is appropriate or there is an assigned measuring tool for that. We also identified the units of measurement because each of these measuring tools, they also signify unit of measurement. What I'm trying to say is, etong mga tools po na ito ay meron ding corresponding na unit of measurement. Meron dyan pang sukat ng kg or kilogram. Meron dyan pang sukat ng sieve or cup. May pang measure dyan ng TBSP or tablespoon. So, iba-iba siya. That's why we have different sets of measuring tools because of different types of ingredients and different units of measurement. So, can you imagine how these measuring tools look like? Okay, so let me show you. So, measuring cup for dry ingredients looks like this. Ayan. So, I know you are familiar with this because we have discussed this on module number 1. So, as you can see, measuring cup for dry ingredients. So, dry ingredients, again, yung mga powder nating mga ingredients. So, yun yung mga sinusukat gamit ito. When you buy the measuring cup for dry ingredients, it comes in a set. Isang set na siyang ganyan na magkakasama. And if you will take a closer look, meron dyan na 1 cup, 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup, 2/3 cup, 1/2 cup, 1/8 cup. So, ganun siya. So, kaya po iba-iba yung sizes niya because it signifies different measurement. Okay? So, for measuring your dry ingredients. So, if you need 1 cup of flour, you get the 1 cup the measuring cup which measures 1 cup. If you need rice that is 2/3 cup, you get the 2/3 cup. So, ganun siya. Another measuring tool that we have is the measuring cup for liquid ingredients. So, take note that there are 2 measuring cups, one for dry and then one for the liquid ingredients. So, can you see the difference? So, a measuring cup for dry is consisted of one set with different measurement. A measuring cup for liquid ingredients is just one piece. Isang piraso lang po siya. But if you will look on the surface sa kanyang body, it has that measurement. Yung nakikita yung mga linya-linya and numbers dyan, that is measurement. So, kung kailangan mo ng 1 cup of water, so you just pour the water here and then wait until it reach the line ng 1 cup. If you need ounce, kung ang nasa recipe ay ounce ang measurement, you can also have it here. Ayan. Kung ml naman yan or milliliter, ayan, so you can find it here. So in most cases, ang mga measuring cups for liquid ingredients natin ganyan. Hindi lang cup ang kanyang measurement na nakasulat, may ounce, may milliliter. Okay? So, but the bottom line is this measuring cup is used for liquid ingredients like water, soy sauce. So, ganun po siya. So, we already have two measuring tools. The measuring cup for dry, measuring cup for liquid ingredients. So, the one is for powdered like products or ingredients, and then the one is for liquid. The third one is the measuring spoons. Ayan. So, just like the measuring cup for dry ingredients, it comes in a set. Ayan. Isang set din po siya pagka nabili ninyo. But take note, measuring spoons are used in measuring small, okay? Small quantities. Ibig sabihin pag konti lang, konting pepper, konting salt, konting tubig, konting vanilla flavoring. So, in short, ang measuring spoons, you can use this both on the dry and liquid ingredients as long as konti lang. Okay? So, you can use that in both type of ingredients. Basta konti. And dahil one set siya, iba-iba din po ang laki ng scoops niya. Hindi po yan tinatawag na scoops. Spoons po yan. Yung scoop na tinutukoy po natin, itong part na to na pansandok. Ayan. So, iba-iba ang lalim niyan, iba-ibang sukat because it signifies different measurement. Meron dyan 1 tablespoon, meron dyan 1 teaspoon. So, on the handle, usually nakikita yun. So, if you need 1 teaspoon of salt, then you choose the measuring spoon that has 1 teaspoon on its handle. So, ganun lang siya. So, measuring spoons. So, we have the dry, the liquid ingredients. So, depending on the measurement, you choose any of these three. But there are some ingredients na hindi liquid, hindi dry. Buo sila, katulad po ng butter, katulad ng margarine, katulad ng pork, katulad ng fruits and vegetables. And usually, ang measurement nila is in grams, kilograms. So, bigat. Ayan. So, in measuring those kinds of measurement, so you have to get your weighing scale. Ayan. So, this is used for measuring the weight of your ingredients. So, if you need 5 grams, so you just look for 5 grams here. If you need 1 kilogram, then you look for 1 kilogram here, depending on the capacity of your weighing scale. But, all in all, these are the different measuring tools. Okay. In cooking. So, we are done identifying the type of ingredient, the unit of measurement, and the measuring tool to use. So, if you already identified these things, then you can start measuring your ingredients and achieve that accurate measurement for perfectly cooked food. Now, the question is, you already have your measuring tools. Now, the question is, how? How are you going to use these measuring tools in measuring your ingredients? So, let me show you. If you have the powdered-like ingredients like the flour and then the sugar, you will be getting your measuring cup for dry ingredients, right? So, now, if you already have your measuring cup for dry ingredients, then you have to follow or remember these 3 words. First is you have to sift the ingredient. Sift, especially sa flour kasi, hindi sila pino. So, you have to make sure that you just get the fine ones. So, sift, sasalain, matatanggal yung mga buo-buong part. So, after you sift, yung sifted po na ingredient, you have to scoop from there. Scoop. So, sasandok ka na. And when you scoop, you have to make sure na umaapaw siya. Okay? Kasi yung umaapaw na part, that will be scraped. Ayan. So, remember in measuring your dry ingredients using a dry measuring cup, you have to sift, scoop, and scrape. Ayan. So, you can use the flat edge of the knife. You can use your spatula in scraping. But this is the step on how you measure your dry ingredients using a measuring cup for dry ingredients. Sift, scoop, and scrape. Get it? Now, we have ingredients that are solid, like the butter, the margarine. Yan. So, how are we going to measure that kapag ang nasa recipe ay cup, hindi grams? Kasi pwede mo siyang i-weigh. Pero, kapag ang nasa recipe natin ay in cup, paano yun? So, this is how. So you have to remember these words. So, ang solid ingredient, you can measure that using a measuring cup for dry ingredients. Yes, pwede po. Magkaiba lang po yung paraan ng pag-measure compared with the powdered-like ingredients. Like for example, you have nga po the butter. So the first thing is you have to put the butter or the solid ingredient. Ipuput mo siya, ilalagay mo siya sa measuring cup mo. After you have put that ingredient, you have to press. Ididiin mo siya so that the butter, like for example, will get the actual shape of your measuring cup para makuha niya yung gulma. Actually, in brown sugar, kasi ang brown sugar medyo ma-moist, diba? This is also the process that you follow. You put the sugar, brown sugar, and then you press it para makuha niya yung forma ng iyong measuring cup. And then, again, make sure na medyo umaapaw so that on the last part, you will just scrape the excess using your spatula or using your knife. Okay? So, measuring cup in measuring solid ingredients. Okay? Next. Liquid ingredients using measuring cup for liquid ingredients. 2 steps. Pour. You just have to make sure that the measuring cup is placed on a flat, level surface. Pantay, hindi tabingin. Flat dapat. Okay. And then you just have to put your measuring cup there and then pour the liquid. Buhos. And then watch until the liquid reaches the line of the measurement that you would like to achieve. So if you need 8 ounces of water, so wait until the water reaches the line of 8 ounces. Ganun lang siya. Pour and watch. Okay po? Next. In measuring spoons naman, how do you use your measuring spoons? So sabi nga natin kanina, it can be used in every type of ingredient, but in smaller quantity. So paano yon? So if you are measuring a dry ingredient like this, same lang. You just have to follow the sift, scoop, and scrape. Okay? And then, kapag sifted naman na, you just have to scoop and scrape. Basta pagka-sift po, pag hindi po pino yung powder na sinusukat natin. Okay? And then, if you're measuring liquid, like the oil, kasi usually ang oil naman, kapag saute lang naman or gisa, konti lang ang kailangan, then your measuring spoon will be helpful for that. Then, you just have to follow. Then, since we are measuring liquid, then pour and watch. Ganun lang. So, in measuring, using your measuring spoon, remember these things. Okay? And if you will be using your weighing scale, ayan, so that is also an example of a weighing scale. And then your ingredient, let's say in the recipe it mentioned 4 grams of flour or 4 grams of pork. So this is just this is your step to follow. Ayan, so you just have to put the ingredient on the weighing scale, and then once you have put, watch until it appears po yung measurement na kailangan ninyo. So put and watch. So those are just the steps that you have to follow when using your measuring tools in measuring different kinds of ingredients. So we're done with this. Do you have, or are these things clear to you na po? So again, if you have any questions, we have our online meeting for this. Do not hesitate to ask me that. And remember, before we end this video lesson, mensuration is an important step in the process of cooking. So we will not be achieve that successful cooking, perfectly cooked food if we do not measure our ingredients, especially properly. Ayan. So mensuration is an important step in the process of cooking. Remember that. And before I end, let me leave you this question, and you will share to me your answers on our Gmeet. And the question is, what might possibly happen if proper mensuration is not observed in cooking? Ano ang mangyayari pag hindi nasunod ang tamang oras na sinet sa recipe, hindi nasunod ang tamang quantity or unit of measurement, hindi nasunod ang tamang temperature? So share to me your answers on our Gmeet. So thank you for watching this video lesson. See you!